Hi, thanks for taking time out of your day to watch this video. This video is going to be an interactive look at the insides of Color Conundrum. Now, if you don't know what that is, I highly suggest that you take a look at the video, and I will provide a link in the description for it that demonstrates this new arcade game added to my world here. So here's how this works. Basically, when you step on this pressure plate that starts the game, you're going to get poisoned, the gate will open, and the game will start. And the objective is to get through the game, okay? Make your way through this, whatever. Right now it's set at right now the difficulty is set at a really slow. And when you step on that end pressure plate, the whole thing will shut off. So how does all of that work, though? Well, I'm going to show you that today. And I'm going to also show you how you can customize it a little bit. So the first thing is that when you step on that, it's going to obviously activate that dispenser up above, which is isolated from the rest of the system. When I step on this, when it starts, I want you to pay close attention to this wire. This wire is the wire that connects to the rest of the game. This is the wire that starts everything up. Okay? Now when I step on that, you'll notice that this wire is active. It's still active. Okay? Now what does that mean? It means that when I step on this pressure plate again, no new signal is going into the game. So I can step on this pressure plate 15 times. It will not change the state of the game. Now this is a bug that I had to tackle later on, but basically the reason that it works this way is because when you start the game, the signal goes into this RS NOR latch. Now this latch is what keeps this wire powered. And this latch is reset at the end of the game. When you step on that pressure plate over there, it sends power through here, which deactivates this torch, which activates this one. And that's what resets the wire, okay? So now, having said that, let's follow the trail. So it's going to come down here, be activated. It's going to go into this other little system here. Now, I had to kind of think backwards to figure out how this works. I had to think of it logically as opposed to from the perspective of redstone. Okay, I had to think of it from the perspective of, well, how can I make this work if I have the following problems? In other words, when I first started the game, I had to think, okay, well, how do I control the length or the speed of how do I control the speed of the game? Because what you'll notice is that the speed is determined on how long this pulse snake is. So let me show it to you. So if I activate this really quickly, now the interval length is, the pulse snake is really short. And that means that when I go up here to take a look at the game, it's not giving me much time to move between the blocks. Or actually, it's the other way around. There's almost too much time to move between them because it's so fast, so I can just run right through the game there. Okay? The other factor that you can customize, or hold on, in order to customize that, I should say, or to control that, is what we're looking at here. I'm going to kill that signal real quick. We customize that based off of this timer, because instead of just running straight into this clock, the pressure plate or the signal input goes into this latch. Now when this latch goes in, it'll activate this wire, but it will activate this wire for a specified amount of time, the amount of time that this timer goes through. Because when this timer goes through, it does the same thing that it does up here, which is it deactivates this. It'll deactivate this torch, which will reactivate this torch, resetting the system. So let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so when I press it and kill it, the timer goes through, and what you saw was that it activated that line for that amount of time. before shutting it off. And that's what creates that pulse snake. Now I can customize this amount of time, obviously, just by moving or changing the length of the timer here. Okay, and the other thing you noticed was that it didn't matter how long that signal lasted, because I don't have to stand on the pressure plate for a long time either. I can just, like I was saying, I can just run right through the pressure plate and the game will just start automatically by itself. It doesn't matter how many times I step on it. It doesn't matter how long I'm stepping on it. The game doesn't look at that. It just is looking at that initial signal. Okay? It will not power the timer again. It will not send another signal through here. It will only activate one time. Okay? So anytime you want to customize it, you have to reset the game, just like anything else. You know, if you want to customize it or change it up, you've got to reset it for it to take effect. So the other thing to consider is, what if I want to change the speed? Well, changing the speed is inherently easy. All you have to do is mess with these amounts, and I can change the speed of the game. Like right now, it's running at the fastest possible speed now. Okay. Now, let me show you what this looks like though, because sometimes it'll move so fast to where not all the blocks will update. Yeah, you can see this block isn't even updating, so it is a little too fast right now, but that's just to show you what you can do with it. You can do those things with it if you like. Or you can make it really slow. The point is, you can customize this to your liking, to create the speed of the game. So that's just a little bit of a description of how the game runs, how it starts. But how does the game end? Well, in order to shut the game off, I had to take advantage of a feature of repeaters, which is when a repeater is powered and it runs into another repeater, it locks that repeater, which can do one of two things. It can either keep a signal from passing through it, or it can keep a signal from escaping it. Now the two are very different, and it's important that we distinguish between the two. Because, let me show it to you. When you power this, okay, watch. If I were to power this and lock it while that repeater is active, it will keep a signal from escaping, which will lock the game. It'll lock the game up, and you won't be able to start it again. Because thinking about it from the big picture, when you step on that pressure plate at the end, it will do this. And then it will also reset this wire, remember. So that if I go back through to play the game again, it's not going to start, because this happened. So how do we keep this from happening? Well, to do that, I want to show you another thing, is that if you do this, hold on, let me get my bearings back together here. If you activate this while the repeater is not active, nope, I did that wrong. Well, here, I'll show you again. Hopefully I can show you this time. If you power it while it's not active, what you'll notice is that the signal, it doesn't escape. It can't get through. And the only reason that it was acting up is because it's also powering this wire. So, but hopefully you can kind of see what it does if you didn't already know how that worked. When you lock the repeater, here you can see it in action up here, because this is how I fixed that problem of being able to determine when it will lock. So let me just show it to you in action. So let's create a pulse snake. So what's going on back here is, well, here, let me kill this wire, or actually let me kill this repeater so that I can show this to you, because I want you to be able to see how this system is working. So let's say that at the end, I step on that, okay, the end pressure plate. It's going to come through, it's going to reset the game. It's also going to stop this. But let me show you how this works. So basically, the signal is not going to get through unless both of these wires are unpowered. Okay, if the yellow, because think about it from like this. If the yellow and the red wires are not powered, that means there is no repeater in here that's powered. If both of these are unpowered, if the red one's not powered, if the yellow one's not powered, then this repeater is not powered. See? And that's what we want, because when we're going to lock it, we want to make sure it's not powered. So in order to do that, in order to do that, I created that little system to ensure that power will not get through. The signal won't even reach the repeater. It will not reach until both of these are unlocked. So let's create another signal here. So you can see, so if I put this here, it's not getting through until both of those are unpowered, what you saw there, and that locks the repeater, and that's what shuts the game off. Okay, and it will always work that way, because as long as these two wires are unpowered, then you know for sure that these repeaters are also unpowered, because these repeaters power this, this repeater powers this repeater powers this. Okay, and if this repeater is not active, and if this repeater is not active, then you know this one's not active. So that's how I determine that, and that's how I ensure that the signal, or that's how I ensure that the game will get shut off. Okay, so so that's how that works. The next thing then to think about is, okay, well, let's assume, because there was one more bug that I had to address, which was the same thing as before. With this one, how long do I have to stand on that pressure plate to assure that the game gets shut off? Because what if that pulse snake is really long, okay, to where a simple, to where an instantaneous stepping motion on the pressure plate doesn't shut it off. So what if I step on it right now and leave, and it's still locked by the time that signal goes away? If that's the case, and it's too long of a time, that signal's not going to get through because I wasn't standing on the plate long enough for the signal to go through. So I had to install a hypothetical system to ensure that the signal stayed on long enough. And that's where this final RS NOR latch and timer comes into play. This is identical to the one that's over here, okay? It does the same thing, in which it doesn't matter how long I stand on the pressure plate. And I'll show you. When I activate this, that wire is activated for the amount of time that this timer goes off, which is the same amount, or I made sure that that amount of time was longer than the time it takes this to go all the way around on the slowest setting. That means that this wire will stay active long enough to ensure that the game gets shut off, to ensure that the signal does get through. Okay, so that's how this works. So I'll show you again. It doesn't matter how long that I stand on it. It's going to stay active until that timer goes off. And that's how long it's going to keep this wire active too. So yeah, all of these details in case you were wondering, I didn't think of all those beforehand. These were things I had to figure out during the testing phase, and that's, I think, how you figure something like this out. When you're creating a contraption like this that has a lot of moving parts and that has a system, you don't really always, you may not always know exactly how it's going to play out, but that's why I encourage you, if you've maybe wanted to do something like this, but you never know where to start, well, just start with what you know, and you work backwards from that. That's how I built this. None of this existed at first, this did not exist at first, and this did not exist at first, okay? The only things that I started with was what I knew. I knew I needed a clock, okay? And I knew that each of the 4 wires had to connect to the four colors, okay? And I started with that, and that was as far as I got. This did not exist. This did not exist. This I had to learn the hard way, because it kept stopping on me, and I kept locking the game out. So I would encourage you, if you're looking to create some type of elaborate project like this, you just need to start with what you know, and figure out the bugs and work backwards from a logical standpoint, or by looking at the process and analyzing how to make that work or how to stop it. How do you control the pulse length? Well, I can do it with this contraption. Well, and you test it and you look for the bugs, like stepping on the pressure plate multiple times locks the game. Well, how do we stop that? Well, to stop it, we have to keep the wire active. Well, how do we do that? And you just work backwards to kind of figure out how to get all the moving pieces together and how to keep them all connected. And that is why working on this project was one of my favorites so far in this world, honestly. It's because it was a lot of fun trying to figure it out. And it does work. It does work flawlessly, almost. And I say almost because when you start to customize it and change it up a little bit, it can get a little tricky. It can cause some problems. For example, if it's too fast, and this is too short, or it's too long rather, and the pulse is too long, well then the game won't shut off because it'll never let the signal through, right? Because if the yellow and the red are always active because the pulse snake is too long, well, it's not going to get through, and you're going to have to force shut it off. So, those are just minuscule details, but if you never checked on that, for the you can get it to work pretty much how you want just by working backwards and looking at the process. So hope you found some enjoyment out of this video today, maybe learned a thing or two, and be sure to keep up to date with some of the other projects coming to Techtropolis, because I try to do all kinds of different things in this world, so hoping to include a little bit of something for everyone. So having said all that, have a nice day, folks, and I will see you next time.